pages of notes, yet we still don't seem to have any answers. Like, how frustrating is that, and so confusing, I'm sure, for his family and friends. So, we will go ahead and get started. If my content is of interest to you, please consider subscribing or leaving a like and a comment. Thank you so much. I always enjoy hearing from you all. I feel like I know who to look for in my comments by now. If I noticed I haven't heard from someone in a while, I'm like, I wonder how they're doing or what they're up to. And it's been so busy, but I'm really trying to get back on my 2-day-a-week schedule, so bear with me. It's currently 3 a.m. and I sat down to film at midnight, but then the air conditioning came on and my dogs were barking, and so I'm hoping that we can get through this case with 0 distractions this time. Joshua was born on June 18th of 1982 to his parents Elisa and Brian. He grew up in Maple Lake, Minnesota, and he was always a very studious kid. He was described as very smart, and he always put school first. In his sophomore year of high school, he started dating a girl named Katie Benson. By senior year, Katie was the class treasurer and Josh was the senior class president. Katie said to people who saw Josh from the outside, they would not expect him to be funny, outgoing, and adventurous like he was. She said that he usually came off as pretty serious. However, his family described him as social and easygoing. He received most likely to succeed in his high school senior year. You know how in senior year they do like most likely to this or most likely to that. He won most likely to succeed. He told everyone that his dream was to become a lawyer, and throughout his childhood, he always questioned things and wanted to know why things worked the way that they did. His parents said that if he never went missing, he probably would be in the presidential election. He graduated high school in 2000 along with his girlfriend Katie. Instead of ending their relationship, they stayed together, but they did decide that they did not want to do long distance, and they decided that they did not want to go to the same college at the same time. Josh decided to go to St. John's College, which was a private, all-male college in Collegeville. Katie enrolled into their sister college, an all-girls university that was the sister school to St. John's. This meant that they were on the same property and they got to have classes together, as sometimes the school mixed the classes, so they had co-ed classes. This school was called St. Benedict's, and because of this decision, they still got to spend plenty of time together. At St. John's, he joined the mock trial team. Josh took the mock trial team very seriously. He was always on time, always prepared, and he never missed a class. In this class, Josh met some of his closest friends. In this group was a boy named Nick, who Josh quickly became best friends with. Nick became Josh's roommate in his junior year of college. They moved into an apartment together on campus with some other friends of theirs. This was called the St. Mar House, and it was located right in the center of campus. On Saturday, November 9th of 2002, it was a normal day, and Josh and Nick woke up early to go get brunch together. While they were out, they got a text from Katie asking if the two of them wanted to come over to her place to hang out with her and her roommate. Josh also had an invite from a different friend, inviting him to come play poker with him and a group of his friends. After thinking about this, Josh decided that he wanted to go to the poker game. And actually, during this time, Katie and Josh had been split up for several months. They had broken up several months earlier because they mutually decided to grow apart, and they wanted to experience a different sense of independence. So, they started dating in sophomore year, as I mentioned, but they'd known each other for much longer than that. So they both decided that they were going on separate paths and that they just, grew apart like sometimes people do. So, Nick decided to pass on the poker game and instead go to Katie's apartment, even though Josh had declined to go to the poker party. At about 7 p.m. that night, Nick left the apartment he shared with Josh to go see Katie and her friend/roommate. Nick said that at the time he left, Josh was sitting on the couch with two of his friends playing video games, and they all said goodbye as Nick left. A couple hours later, in the very early hours of November 10th, Nick came back home from Katie's and noticed that Josh was not home yet. It was a Saturday night, so Nick was not too concerned. But when he woke up the next morning and noticed Josh was not home, he began to be concerned. Things got a lot more serious for him when he realized that Josh missed the mock trial debate that the team was having that Sunday morning. This was very unusual because, as we mentioned before, Josh took mock trial very seriously and never missed anything involving it. At this point, Nick knew something was wrong, and after the meeting at about 2 p.m., Nick called Katie to ask if she had heard from him, to which she replied that she had not heard from Josh at all. When Nick told her that Josh missed mock trial, she became worried as well. Josh's friends got together and decided to go to the Dean of Students for help. And at about 10:30 on November 10th, Josh's mom was contacted to let her know Josh had not been seen and that she needed to file a missing persons report. I'm sorry if you heard my throat make that noise a second ago. She made the call to 911 at 11:42 p.m. that same night, and police arrived at the apartment early the next morning to see if they could find any clues. Some of the items they found were his keys, his wallet, glasses, and contacts. Because of this, they assumed that he did not plan on being gone long, and that they did not expect him to be a runaway case. His car was also still in the parking lot, and nothing was missing. They started to interview some of Josh's friends to get a timeline. At 11 p.m. on November 9th, Josh and his two friends, named Alex and Craig, left his apartment to go to the poker party, which was being held about a 5-minute walk away. It was held at an apartment complex in the Milton Court complex, which was on the northern border of campus. 6 minutes later, Josh's key card was used to get back into his own apartment complex, which his friend said that he was just grabbing a few extra drinks for them. They arrived at the party at about 11:30 p.m. Only about 10 to 12 people were there, and Josh only knew a handful of them. According to the people who had talked to him, they said nothing seemed weird or off with his behavior. They said they got the impression that he was having fun. He was being talkative and laughing. He sat down to play poker, and people said he definitely did seem tipsy, but he was nowhere near incoherent and he could walk just fine. After about 45 minutes at the poker table, Josh randomly got up from his seat and he walked out the door without saying a word to anybody. And this was the last time that anybody ever saw him. People at the party said he never acted weird or his behavior never concerned them. Apparently, the bathroom and the front door were right next to each other, so everyone assumed that he was getting up to go to the bathroom and did not question him. He left so quietly, people didn't even realize that he was gone until about an hour and a half later. When his two friends noticed he disappeared, they were worried and they told the police that he was not the type of person to get up and leave somewhere without saying goodbye to everyone. Immediately, tracking dogs were brought in, and the dogs led officers to the pathway that Josh took to get from his apartment to the location of the poker party. On their loop back, part of the path caught the dogs' attention, and they stopped at a bridge over a lake called Stump Lake. It was on this bridge on the way back to his apartment complex that the dogs lost his scent. This was a very common pathway. It's not like he was straggling off somewhere. This was also a road, so it was very commonly used by both people on foot and cars. The police were later approached by two students, one boy and one girl. They told them that at around 12:30 a.m. on Sunday, they were walking on the bridge towards the poker party. Now, they weren't going to the party, they were just walking in that general direction. But they explained that they crossed paths with a guy who matched Josh's description. And a couple moments after they passed each other, they randomly turned around and Josh was gone. They said it creeped them out because this happened in the span of a couple seconds. So they were walking this way, Josh was walking that way, and when this couple walked by and passed him, they did a double take and turned around and he was just gone, is how they described it. They said they did not hear or see anything either. He just seemed to have vanished. Multiple search parties began, including the National Guard, people on horseback, and more dogs. The lake was also searched, but nothing was found. Josh's disappearance was not the only one, however, that had occurred in the area in that time frame. My throat keeps making noises, I apologize. Around the same time frame, several other male college students had gone missing from Josh's disappearance on November 6th. Both boys' bodies were found in different lakes. Chris's cause of death was drowning, and Michael's cause of death was also ruled a drowning. Because of this, all of the nearby lakes were searched, and so were boats. And for this search, boats, kayaks, divers, and underwater cameras were all used. And since this was mid-November, they were on a time crunch because they knew that in a couple weeks the lake would be frozen over. However, nothing was found. So after this big search, the police concluded that the other two boys' disappearance were not connected to Josh. In December of 2022, a new bloodhound was brought into the investigation. Josh's dad, Brian, was getting frustrated because he felt like no answers were being found. So he hired this new dog to redo the search. When this bloodhound was sent to trace Josh's scent, his scent was again found at the poker party, then was traced back to the bridge. However, unlike the first search, the bloodhound tracked the scent from the bridge where the other dogs left off and went back to Josh's apartment. It then traced his scent from Josh's apartment to St. John's Abbey, somewhere that had not been brought up or searched yet. And an abbey is a religious building where monks and priests can be found, and this is where they also do their religious practices. However, this building and these monks were facing contradiction because a lot of the monks who lived there were professors at the university, and rumors had been going around about them. And it wasn't just some silly little rumor. This was a city-wide ordeal where it even landed on local news and the police got involved. Between 1981 and 1986, 4 civil lawsuits were filed against a monk at St. John's for sexual abuse, and this was a monk that still worked there. He had actually been reported for over 200 sexual harassment incidents. And just the monks in general were being looked at because supposedly the university had been keeping this under the rug. They didn't want to talk about it and they covered it up. Nick claims that before Josh disappeared, they had had a conversation about these rumors, and Josh expressed how upset he was that the university was covering up such horrible things. Josh's dad believed that he had been doing research about these rumors to write a research paper about it. But the police were not able to back this up after going through his computer. But this leaves so many questions. Like, why would Josh have gone to the Abbey at 12:30 a.m. after a poker game? When the police told administration of this new finding, they asked for permission to go into the Abbey with their dog. However, the college denied this request at first, which I find suspicious. However, after a few days, they agreed. When the bloodhound was brought in, it picked up Josh's scent in the building, but they could not find a single clue inside. And in the spring of 2003, after the ice had melted from the lake, police ruled out the drowning theory. They thought that if he drowned, he would have floated to the top of the water was met with foul play. They re-interviewed his friends, some of them, specifically his 2 friends from the poker party. These friends opened up a little bit more and said that right before Nick had left to go to Katie's apartment that night, Josh and Nick actually had gotten into an argument. Supposedly, Nick and Katie were having a fling, but they had decided to never date. According to Nick, they had kissed before, but they just wanted to remain friends with benefits. And Josh was not happy about this. Katie and Nick's story to police were mostly consistent, except for a flaw in the timeline. Nick claimed that he left Katie's apartment at 2:30 a.m., and his key card did show him coming back home at 2:42. However, Katie said that Nick left her apartment by 1 a.m. This raised questions, but Nick did stick to his story. Nick originally agreed to take a polygraph, but he ended up backing out when he got there to take this polygraph. He says his reasoning for this was that they were not admissible in court and that it would be pointless. Police started to look at all the people Josh attended the poker party with, because they were all seemingly pretty quiet about what happened, which made the police wonder if somebody was hiding something. Although they thought this was odd that they were all pretty hush about that night, nobody was suspected of a crime. When police searched Josh's room the day after he went missing, they did not remove anything from it at the time or consider his room to be a crime scene, so nothing was secured, meaning people could go in and come out and do whatever with Josh's stuff or be in his room. Brian, Josh's dad, decided to go remove his belongings from his apartment in fear of people being nosy. Brian took Josh's computer as well during this, and when police realized this, they contacted him and requested to go through it, and Brian agreed. The police learned that a program had been installed to the computer called a, quote, internet washing program, end quote, which had been installed just days after Josh went missing. This program deletes anything off of a computer. They concluded, after an analysis, that this program had only been installed the one time, which was, again, after he went missing. However, they determined that it was not Brian who did this, since he did not get the computer until 2 weeks after the disappearance. They couldn't figure out who deleted it or even what had been deleted. In 2008, Josh's hard drive was taken to the Criminal Bureau of Apprehension. By this point, advances in technology allowed the police to see what had been deleted from the hard drive. A lot of it was typical, like sports and school-related things. However, they found that Josh had several accounts with a dating website called Yahoo Personals. What was weird was that he had 3 different accounts on this dating site. They were all confirmed to be owned by Josh, but 2 of these accounts portrayed him as a female. So his first account was one with his name and information, being himself, but 2 of these accounts were believed to be catfish accounts because, again, they were portraying him to be a woman. The first account of his female accounts was called Kujiku 2002, and the other was called Gwen Girl Big Jugs. I'm not kidding, guys, this is what the 2 account names were. When police saw this, they assumed that Josh may have been trying to explore his sexuality. But according to his friends, nobody in his life ever assumed or even saw hints that he could be gay or anything to imply it. If Josh was pretending to be a girl talking to guys, though, he could have come across the wrong person who found out his real identity. But they found no evidence that he was planning to meet up with somebody or that he had ever even met anybody. And heartbreakingly, this is where the case ends. Nothing else has been discovered. So, that's the end. Like, how frustrating is that? It's so frustrating, right? So many questions. What I believe happened is that my main theory is that it was the monks. I think for whatever reason, he decided to confront them. And another thing, I'm wondering if he didn't go to the abbey that night that he went missing, because a bloodhound is a very impressive dog. They can pick up scents from months earlier. So he definitely had been at the abbey that around the time frame, but it might not have been that night. But for whatever reason, maybe he went there that night, and maybe the monks knew about his fake accounts, or that he was onto them, or whatever it could be, and they got rid of him, and that's why his scent was found inside the abbey, and why the police said, no, you're not searching it, and then randomly contacted them 3 days later and said, okay, just kidding, you can come search it. That was very suspicious to me. And my second theory is his best friend, Nick. The time difference threw me off because that's an hour and a half, which an hour and a half I don't believe is very long to be able to make someone go missing forever. You never know, but I think that's odd that he could have made him impossible to find in an hour and a half. So I don't know, this case is baffling to me, but please let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Good night.